Just a quick exercise today. This one is named the forgiveness exercise, and it goes hand in hand as part of the process of resolution, particularly resolving past trauma. So, like has been explained in different videos, we're observing subconscious impulses related to what we would term as being negative behaviors: frustration, anger, impatience, hatred, resentment, jealousy, guilt, arrogance, fear, all these things. So in our day-to-day mindfulness, we ought to be mindful of when these impulses occur. So they may be emotionally triggered in certain situations, certain interrelationships, interrelating, and then you can obviously see that you're impatient, frustrated, angry, you're being vindictive, hateful, spiteful, resentful, fearful, arrogant, So on a day-to-day basis, we may be emotionally triggered in some way, and we can recognize the shape and expression of the emotion as it occurs. And also, it can be more subtle in our mindful observations, where we have these just subconscious impulses, like a silent hatred in our mind, a silent resentment, silent criticism, silent anger, silent frustration, silent jealousy, just occurring in our mind, And what I have done, just as an aside, what I've recognized is the utilization of social media newsfeed, just say the Facebook newsfeed, and you're reading some of the responses, some of the posts, maybe on your own wall in response to some of your posts. You can observe perhaps the monkey mind is like automatically criticizing people, projecting spitefully towards people, just reading their posts, just observing the newsfeed, The chattering monkey mind may express in that way, may express in those shapes. So that's something to be aware of as well. And that's a handy use of social media, I have, in past, resolved it now, for the most part. Been flicking through the newsfeed, I'm like, all sorts of responses and reactions to what people post, what people say, and things like that. I've managed to neutralize that for the most part. So I have a peaceful scrolling through the news feed. That's something. It's these kind of things, these kind of subconscious impulses that we ought to be mindfully aware of and observing of. Okay, so once we recognize we have certain regular tendencies of hatred, anger, spite, vindictiveness, frustration, impatience, all of these things, fear, worry, guilt, anxiety, any of these things, all the number of what we would call negative emotions. Once we recognize any of these, there's probably a bunch of them that we're more familiar with, and we have more the tendency to act out, more emphasis in our experience. Well, once we identify these subconscious impulses, then we go to our quiet place, or be somewhere undisturbed in meditations, and go deeper into contemplation, and question, why am I so spiteful? Why is there so much criticism in my expression, or silently in my mind towards people? Why am I jealous towards people? I mean, the other thing as well, which I've explained, is to really understand these negative impulses, subconscious impulses. Understand, become familiar with what these negative emotions are, So it's not just the names, but you're actually recognizing what hatred actually feels like within your mind, within your body, within your conscious, what hatred actually is, what resentment actually is, what guilt actually is, how it feels, maybe where in the body is it held within you. Same with fear, same with worry, anxiety, disdain, arrogance, all of these things. Really become familiar with them. Know thyself through thy negativities, through thine hellishness. Come to really know, come to really recognize and understand it. This is why I'm able to communicate in a bit more depth in these videos about these particular things, because I did this depth of introspection to really get to understand what hatred is, understand what criticism is. You know, how does it feel? Where is it? Where does it, like, where do I sense it occurring within the body? You know, and anything that you can sense about it is helpful, because they are all-round understanding and awareness of it. So that's one level. Then we go and we take to our meditation, deeper contemplation, and why am I spiteful all the time? Ask ourselves the question, inquire internally and spiteful. Consider all the times when you are spiteful towards people, or angry or disdainful or jealous, you know, and sense internally and through introspection, where does that come from? Why does that happen for me and within me? I mean, all of these impulses are related to pain, are related to woundedness, held within the body as programs in the psychology that have been initiated through past experience, past traumatic moments, solidified as programs over time due to the repetitive nature and the cycles of our interactions, relationships, and experience. So it's these that we're coming to understand, and through awareness, they will undo themselves. There's no fixing that needs to be done or can be done. It's being aware of it. You bring them out into consciousness, and then there is the clear decision whether you want to continue acting out your hatreds, these impulses, or not so. You know? So that's really it. And then you don't act them out, the programs break down, the tendencies dissolve, they become weaker, less strong, they less longer happen. Any energetic blockages related to the programs begin to release and subside, you know? So anyway, so as you identify these things, you become more familiar with the tendencies that occur for you in your experience. Then you sense back in your relationship, you go, how does that happen? When does that happen, you know? And how did that come to be, you know, in the first place? There might have been several past experiences from childhood or adolescence or whenever that has kind of culminated and created that shape of experience of hatefulness, silent hatefulness, resentment, guilt, anger, any of these, you know? And you just come to sense and recognize and find out, introspect for yourself, all right? So you learn more about it, end to end experience, top to bottom experience, from the acting out to the actual tracing the actual source of how it's come to be. Yeah, and it's the way you really get true understanding of all of these subconscious impulses. With that true understanding, awareness and true understanding is one and the same, and then they begin to dissolve, you know, and that's how we resolve and heal ourselves. So there might be pains and woundedness of hatred, spitefulness, resentment, guilt, and things like that from moments in our past. And to support with the introspection, to support with the introspection, and to support with the process of resolving, we have what I'm going to communicate here as being the forgiveness process. Got back to the initial point of the video at last. But there's a full explanation for you. So, and this is going to be a quick video. I don't, quick videos don't occur here, actually. So, forgiveness process. Create a time, schedule a time for yourself where you have a free, undisturbed space at home or wherever. Somewhere where you won't be disturbed, somewhere where there is silence, somewhere where you can be present, peaceful, non-disturbed with, okay? And treat this as a ceremony, a ceremonial act for yourself. So set up a space for yourself. Some candles, some incense, bring focus, bring peace into the space, bring that sense of intentionality into the space as you go through the ritual. It cultivates your consciousness into focus, into peace, into single-mindedness, and then you can carry out the forgiveness process. And it's quite simply get a piece of paper and a pen, and in your introspections, write down the names of everyone that you can recall in your life past where there has been animosity, where there has been challenge, animosity, hurt, pain, conflict, etc. List all of these names, even if it's 30, 40, 50, 500 names. List them all on a piece of paper. People from past work colleagues, your mother, your father, uncles, aunts, children, so-called friends, enemies, President of the United States, whomever you have had a beef with, whomever there remains within you an emotional charge towards, even though you might not have seen this person or interacted with them for a number of years. But when you recall them, there is an emotion there. There's something that remains unresolved there, and that all compounds into the experience of the negative impulses, the subconscious impulses, because you're still carrying the wounds and the traces of animosity and negative emotion with these people from the past. Okay, you get it. So write all of their names. Do a thorough introspection, right? A thorough cleanup. Now, since you're going to focus on this, then make it thorough. Don't do it half-heartedly, all right? Because the more thorough that you make this, the more you will experience healing from this activity. So really, truly make it worthwhile. So write down all the names. Once you've got all the names, sit down in your space with your candles, your incense, sit down, meditation position, get into that subdued trance-like state, then go through the names one by one, all right? First name, and just meditate, recall that person in your mind, recall the situational interactions with that person, perhaps the disturbance or the conflict may play out in your mind and you see it in your imagination. Well, you're going to bring forgiveness into this experience, okay? So you're going to observe the person, and if there's an emotional charge, then you have personalized some of your experience with them. You have took personal something that they have done towards you, okay? So what you want to do in this forgiveness process is rest into the emotional charge that you feel with them. You may see the situation playing out in your mind's eye, or you might just see them. However, or you might just sense the emotional charge, and you'll just rest through the emotional charge, not be disturbed with it, just observe it, just feel it, and then offer that person forgiveness, sincere forgiveness for the experience. There doesn't need to be any story in your mind to complicate it. Just feel, sense, feel through the emotional charge, offer the person forgiveness, truly, sincerely offer them forgiveness. And you may need to be with that person in your internal experience for a while. There might need to be a lot of forgiveness that is issued in that experience. Continue until you sense and you feel that the emotional charge is dissipating. No? So for however long it takes, however long you feel is appropriate, is right, offer that person forgiveness. Be humble. Be sincere. Don't create any stories. Just stick to forgiveness, sincerity, forgiveness. Offer them forgiveness. Your being, your mind knows all about the story anyway, you know? So just consider and continue with the forgiveness towards them. So in that experience of forgiving them, you might feel the energy shift. You might, in your mind's eye, you see them coming and giving you a hug, or you give them a hug, or whatever. That might happen automatically. Don't imagine giving people hugs and things like that. If it happens automatically, anything, any sentiment like that, that's fine. Don't project into it. The only thing to project and to consider in the experience is the sincerity and the forgiveness. So keep it clear, keep it simple, you know, and keep it and strive for purity, for clarity, for peace, you know, and calm in that experience. All right? And then you go through all the names, every name, and you give every name however long it takes for that process to go through with each of them, you know? So you go through the experience of forgiving them, offering them forgiveness in a sincere way, and you may offer the whole experience of you and them and the circumstance forgiveness, you know, sincerity. You recognize that it is what it is, life is what it is, this is what occurred, and to be okay with that. No matter how much pain, if there's a lot of pain with a certain person, then you ought to keep on going with it. Keep focused with it. Tears and emotions might express, okay, that's all right. Go for it. But be mindful not to let stories generate in your mind, all right? Because that will distract. Keep it in the feeling level of experience, sincerity, humility, forgiveness, softness, calm, sincerity, forgiveness. No mind, no stories, okay? Feeling, sense, heart, and go for it that way. So that is the process. Go through your whole list. It can take some energy and focus, this. So you might find that you can only get through a few names, and then you may be feeling tired in the experience. That's all right. Shut up shop, tidy your things away, and create another space and time to continue on in your list. Now, when my old teacher introduced this practicality to us, he called it the 30-day forgiveness process. So this is something that we would do. 30 days is a month, basically, you know, and we would go through that whole experience with everyone on our list, you know, throughout the period of a month. So this isn't just an hour-long thing, you know. This is something to go through, like I said, to go through it absolutely thoroughly with each person until you sense that the emotional charge, the experience, the situation has resolved and subsided, and there is peace, there is acceptance, just acknowledgement that there is peace in the experience of it. Okay? So create that ritual, create that sacred space, and keep that focus. Make your list absolutely thorough, introspect thoroughly, go through that list, and then go through the experience for as much, however long, for however deeply, and for however length of time that it takes to get thoroughly throughout your whole list. And that is it. So that is an experience, an activity that I encourage you to carry out. I would say, the first things that I mentioned in this video about becoming aware of what your particular subconscious impulses are, and the emphasis on the negative behavioral hostilities or the silent hatreds and things like that. Become familiar with all of that experience first, I would say. So learn and come to understand your own negative tendencies and the subconscious impulses that play out in your mind, that play out in your life. Become aware and understanding of that. So that's like a step one, a phase, sub-phase one. And then perform that deeper introspection once you recognize that you have these habitual tendencies and these particular emphasis on these negativities. Then take that sub-phase 2 experience and go deeper into find the origination of where that pain comes from, where those tendencies or behavioral hostilities come from. So this is over days, weeks, And then when you have more of an understanding, then continue in the forgiveness process. Okay, so manage the experience of that, the point that I've expressed here, because it's like the first layer of identification of what your negative tendencies are, the impulses are, behavioral hostilities are. That's the first step. So that's like a surface level kind of. Second step is the deeper introspection to sense when these things play out, for how long they've played out in your past experience, why, and you come to understand it more, how this has shaped in your being and in your experience, and you might recognize more the source of the issues, the source trauma, the source period of time, and you become a little bit more, you become more deeper, more consciously understanding of these tendencies. And then phase 3 is the forgiveness process, where you go really deep into where the source, you go through the experience of recognizing the people that in all of your past this life, that you've had run-ins with, that you've had challenges with, that you've had interrelational conflict with. And you write all the names and you go through the process as described. And you'll see that these will link to what your awareness of the sources of your trauma and tendencies, it will come together. So these 3 phases will give a thorough process of recognition, acknowledgement, deeper awareness, understanding of, and purification of the pains, the wounds, and the experiences and the energy from your physiology, from your physio-energetic system, mind, and consciousness.